Congressman?
Michael, it's nice to be on your show.
It's nice to be with you. I don't know if Tracy told you, but I've been begging for a 3-hour sit-down.
She was telling me about that, and I wasn't quite in the position where I could promise that, so I thought, it's better that I get 30 minutes on your show than nothing.
Congressman, I'll take 30 seconds. I really believe, I went back and was doing some prep on you today, and I was looking back at speeches you've given and comments you've made, and I say to myself, how ridiculous that you're on the floor of the House of Representatives talking about Ludwig von Mises amongst a bunch of boobs who have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. You wonder why I do it. But, I've thought about that, and, Mises is so important because he and other Austrians have explained the business cycle, which seems to me to be a pretty important issue on why we have booms and busts and unemployment. And I thought, how many people in the Congress have heard of his name? And you're right. There are several that do, but I don't believe I can name 5 people who actually understand the Austrian business cycle explanation. And that to me is crucial. If you don't understand that, you do all this nonsense that we get, tinkering with the tax code and the spending and let the Fed do whatever they want. And then they wonder why things don't get any better. So, I've thought about that very thing. But what I have done over the years hasn't been with the idea that I was going to give a powerful speech and convert my fellow colleagues. If I had done that, I probably would have been too frustrated to stay there. But I knew that there might be somebody else listening, and maybe a couple did.
Congressman Ron Paul, I've said numerous times throughout the presidential election and over the last few years that you don't have to vote for Ron Paul. You don't even have to like Ron Paul, but you cannot call him crazy. And I find that what's been done to you, and let's take Bill Kristol, for instance, by people like Bill Kristol, who I think I have a very cynical view of them and their motives, is they have managed with a great number of the unwashed to convince people, let's not even discuss what Ron Paul's talking about because he's crazy. And when you can do that, you can prevent an honest discussion of ideas.
Yeah. Well, if they can't refute your ideas, the saying goes that they go after your characters, so they want to attack character, and therefore they don't have to refute ideas. So I would make the case that he ought to talk about the issues. If he thinks my position on monetary policy is foolish, he should try to refute them and defend paper money and Federal Reserves and endless credit and $15 trillion bailouts for foreign banks and foreign governments. He should be put on the defense. But, when he gets on TV, he's never asked those kind of questions. He gets to, criticize others.
For 40 years, Dr. Ron Paul, you've been in public life fighting the good fight, politically, intellectually consistent. You ran for president 3 times. What is the greatest accomplishment of your life, your public life, outside of being a doctor, outside of being a father, outside of being a husband? What's your greatest accomplishment to date?
Well, I haven't thought a lot about that because I think that's somebody else's job. But if I tried to come up with something, it wouldn't be, precise and dramatic. But hopefully it's just getting people to think about important issues and at least think about what I'm saying and maybe agree or maybe challenge me. But I think it's getting people to pay attention to the problems. And I think there's been a little progress on that because I've been there a long time, but it was after the financial crisis hit that the credibility seemed to improve a bit. So hopefully I got people to think about, why free markets and individual liberty are so important to both peace and prosperity, because I think that should be our goal in life, peace and prosperity, so that we can seek fulfillment in life.
Dr. Ron Paul, I have 3 minutes left in this segment. I want to give you time to answer this question as best you can in that amount of time. Reading some things about you, one of the things you talk about was Nixon taking us off the gold standards and stepping away from Bretton Woods. For people who don't understand the gold standard, and for you, monetary policy, why is that important to the average person that we went off the gold standard?
Well, because it gave license to government to expand and not to be responsible. And this is a deliberate issue because from 1913 on, the movement was away from restraint on government spending. But if governments have a vehicle where they can print money to pay the bills, they will, and they have done it endlessly. So when Nixon finally took us off the gold standard, even though we weren't on much of a gold standard in 71, but finally he closed the gold window. Foreigners weren't allowed to reclaim gold for dollars. And on August 15th of 1971, I said to myself, this is going to lead to really serious problems according to Austrian free market economics. And that is what's happened. I mean, the dollar's worth about 10 cents. It's lost 90% of its value since 1971. It's lost 98% of its value since 1913. So, and look at the spending and the deficit. If the Fed couldn't print money to buy Treasury bills, interest rates would go up, and the Congress would have no other choice than to cut back on spending. So it's a vehicle to enhance the welfare state, and it enhances the warfare state, too, because there's a lot of things we do under the pretense of national defense, but it's really militarism and the things that Eisenhower warned us against. None of that would happen if the Fed couldn't print the money. The founders knew this, and that is why they put in the Constitution only silver and gold could be legal tender, because they knew what would happen. They had just gone through the runaway inflation of the continental dollar. To me, it's a very, very important issue. Hopefully, a lot more will study about it, and quite frankly, a lot of college people and young people have started reading and studying about the importance of the Federal Reserve.
You ran for president 24 years ago as a libertarian. For the last two election cycles, you ran as a Republican. Are you a Republican?
Well, yeah, but I don't know what that really means. I was elected as a Republican every time I ran for Congress and worked within the Republican Party. And I, in many ways, what they pretend to be, I think I can qualify. They talk about limited government and balanced budgets and personal freedoms and strong national defense and honest money. So I think in that way, I may be more Republican than some of the others who get in office. Just think the Republicans didn't do all that well when we had the House and the Senate and the presidency. Spending continued, deficits exploded. So in that sense, but so I don't think the Republican Party really has a precise philosophy. I always tried. It's a vehicle, and other vehicles aren't much available to us these days because it's very hard for third parties to get anywhere. It's hard to get on ballots.